You're listening to DruidCast episode 191. Hello, my friends, and welcome to DruidCast episode 191. I am your host, Dave the Bard, and DruidCast is brought to you on or around the 20th of the month by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. If you want to find out more about membership to the Order and our courses, you can find that information on our website at druidry.org. Yes, my friends, it is Dave the Bard, and as you can hear, I have a horrible cold, but the show must go on. It's the 20th of the month, and another edition of DruidCast needs to be created and uploaded so that we can pour our druidic delights into your ears through the conduit of your favourite podcast device. Opening the show, you heard Winter in a Strange Land, taken from the new album Maison Mouton Sessions by good friends of the show, Oddfellows Casino. You know, I absolutely love their music, and it brings to mind those wonderful Syd Barrett days of Pink Floyd. Thank you so much for sending that in to the show. And don't forget, you can find links to all of the artists we feature on the show in the show notes. This month's interview is with Order member JJ Middleway. Now, JJ has been a member of the Order for decades and is always there at Order gatherings, be that here in the UK or across on mainland Europe. His Druidry comes from a place of balance and peace, and he brings that with him, literally wherever he goes. We have a great chat about his path, and he also sings some songs and plays his drum. Now, this interview was done over Zoom, and sometimes the audio was affected in volume by the drum. I think he had the automatic volume ticked in the settings on Zoom. But I've done some audio magic, so I don't think it will be any problem at all. So, here is this month's Talky Bit with JJ Middleway.
The Talky Bit.
I am sitting here on Zoom with my old friend, JJ Middleway. Both of us, I think, have got colds, so I'm sounding a little nasally. I don't know about you. You sound okay, though, JJ, to me. But welcome to DruidCast. It's been a long time to get you back on here again.
It has. It's been, well, I don't know how many years, well over a decade. I was living in a yurt the last time I was
Amazing. Amazing.
So that was a long time ago.
Well, we've known each other a long time, but what I love about these interviews is I get to sit down with my old friends and really pick their brains and understand them a bit more than I ever did before, really. So what I'd like to know is a bit about your journey and the way you approach your Druidry, that kind of thing. So maybe we'll start with that question first. You know, what was your journey to Druidry and the Order? How did that happen?
Okay, gosh, I'll try and keep it succinct. I mean, I was brought up a Catholic, but I had an atheist father, strongly atheist father. So I had these comparators, these extremes, if you like, but they were united through love. That was the key to them. They loved each other, so that didn't matter. So as I look back, I can see that I always felt something. I didn't have a name for it. A mystic, a connection with the mystic realm is the best way to put it. A connection with spirit or the divine or the nameless. And in my early teens, I rejected Catholicism and Christianity. And I went on a journey into exploring a spiritual path of my own. I think it started with what I'd call hippiedom, and because in looking back, it did fulfill some sort of sense of connection. That's what it's about. And then, but that wasn't really a spiritual path, although it gave me an insight into some aspect of it. And then over the years, I explored Buddhism quite strongly and deeply, Sufism, silly foolism, as I like to call it, because I think that plays its part too. And by my, when was it, late 30s, I was thinking, oh, there's nothing quite fits, doesn't quite do. I'm going to sort of have to just develop my own style, my own path. And I was doing that. And then I came across, lo and behold, OBOD. I forget how my entry into it. I mean, this here, talk about synchronicities. I turned up in 1994 at my first Druid Grove meeting at a house in Bristol. Someone called Julie Britton.
Yeah.
And on that night, 2 other people turned up for the first time in their lives at a Druid gathering. One was Adrian Rook. We've been lifelong friends, deep friends throughout. It was coming home. We know that's a cliche, isn't it? Oh, bod. We all come home, and it was a homecoming.
It's a cliche, but it's true. It is a cliche, but it's very true, you know.
It's totally true. I'm at home. I found my home because Obod reflects my path and my way of being. So that was my path to Druidry.
Right. When you say you were into the hippiedom, what era would that be? What decade is that you're talking about?
I'm talking about the mid-60s. Well, yeah, I mean, mid to mid-60s to early 70s is what I class as that period. It was at its height for me. I was a teenager. I was at its height in the. For me, it came to a crescendo 67, 68, 69 even. But then it kind of eased a bit. Although, as you know, I mean, I've had the privilege of sharing some very beautiful spaces with some amazing musicians, and well, you know one of them at least.
I do.
I was at Jimi Hendrix's last concert 3 weeks before he died. Slept through some of it because I'd been awake for 3 days and nights listening to other artists. But Joni Mitchell was there, and many others. I've had a great. It was a beautiful time, but that was it was a spiritual time. There was something in the air at that time.
So that sounds like a song.
Yes, yeah. It does indeed, doesn't it? Something in the air tonight.
Yeah, because you had the Doors at that time as well. You had the early Zeppelin coming out as well. It must have been. I mean, I was too young to remember that. My awareness of that kind of music started really with glam rock. In the 70s, but yes, I am extremely jealous. I don't know jealous, but I think, wow, that must have been amazing to be, because I think the Doors were at that same festival as well.
They were amazing. Yeah,
and there must have been an incredible energy. Would you say it was of hope? Was that what was being felt at the time, or something like that?
There was an optimism. There was a celebration. There was joy in the air. I mean, I don't know quite what. I mean, compared to now, there was this real shift. There was something flowering. Something. I mean, it was the flower power era, but I mean, there was something flowering. Yeah. Something, and we weren't really. You can see it more clearly in hindsight. There was something, because it was transitory. It was like a blossom blooming.
Yeah.
And then it was over within a very few years. Yeah. I mean, one thing, I'm just reminded, on my 16th birthday, I got to play with an incredible string band on stage in Birmingham. They invited me up because it was my birthday. I mean, they were a crazy bunch. They were epitome of hippiedom. And I got to play the maracas. I played the maracas. But it was, anyway.
Yeah. So you got on stage with the incredible string band. And of course, Robin Williamson is an honorary bard of the order. So that connection continues from back then to now as well, you know.
It does. And I was there for his crowning when he was offered that at the 50th celebrations.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
It is interesting that when you're in that moment, you can kind of miss how things like that change things forever. You know, like there's no doubt that the hippie movement changed things forever, as did punk, which was my experience of about that time, you know, the 1977, when the Pistols came out and the Ramones and all of that. You know, it was literally just maybe a year and a half, or even at the most 2 years. Not even that, I don't think, when punk was actually at its height. But it changed everything in this. But it was a little bit more angry. You know?
Yes, yeah. But the same. You're right. It comes into fruition and then it passes.
Yeah,
and it's transitory.
Yeah.
So it's about enjoying the moment. Yeah.
And when I was in it,
Yeah.
seeing all my friends dress up in black bin liners with safety pins and going off to their gigs, I didn't realise at the time, probably like you, standing there watching the Doors, what a momentous occasion that probably was.
No, I wasn't really aware of it. I look back and I think it's almost like a dream. Yes, I was lucky.
Yeah.
So I said a strong part of my path is song. So here's a song from that time with the incredible string band, Mike Heron. Just very briefly.
Okay.
May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you. And the pure light within you guide your way on, guide your way on. Yeah. And just singing it now, I see how it fits.
Yeah.
Holds good.
Timeless, and I can hear that being written by a modern day bard now. Same words.
Yeah.
So how would you describe your Druidry now? How has it developed over the years since that first visit to the Grove with Julie Britton back in the day?
Okay. I mean, following the course, again, it's easy to dismiss those things. It's a written course on paper. It is transformative. If I look back and I did delve into the bardic course is the key. I think bardistry is the key to Druidry in a way, and it's the foundation to enabling other things to happen. I regard the bardic as flowering unto thyself. That's, for me, the bardic is that flowering unto thyself, the divine part of oneself. And then through the ovate, which is a completely different experience and really goes very deep. And I don't want to, there's no spoilers on here, but it is one heck of a journey. But again, it's a deep and profound enabler to the Druid, which is service for me. It's about being in service, here's a quote. This is an adapted quote, but I'd like to believe that when I die, this is my Druidry now, I'd like to believe that when I die, I will have given myself away as an oak tree does every season, scattering its acorns without fear of loss. For it's not a loss. It's contributing to new life. It's the tree's way of being, strongly rooted in the ground and spilling out its treasures on the wind. Now that's a May Sarton quote adapted. Actually, she didn't talk about the oak. I've adapted it. But for me, and this is just in the moment in response to your question, the oak, and here's the ogham around my neck, which I carry with me. It reminds me of the beneficence of the oak, the benevolence. It gives itself away more than any other tree for me. It supports more life. 512 species, is it, or something phenomenal compared to about 12 for a conifer. I'm not dismissing conifers because they're beautiful too, but the oak is this absolutely abundant tree giving itself away. And the other thing I'd say here at this point, Druid, my own interpretation of the word Druid, and this wasn't from any book, this is because I was lucky to study with someone who taught Sanskrit, and we learned some Sanskrit chants together. And it came to me that in Sanskrit, Tara is the word for both truth and tree. And if you say Druid, you see where, for me, it goes right back, because the wid in Druid is wisdom. And so it becomes truth wisdom and tree wisdom combined for me. And so, my connection and learning from trees are key to my Druidry, and the Ogham Grove and Ogham, the whole Ogham. So there's a snapshot of what Druidry means to me now.
Yeah. I often think, when you look at history, you see that the Druids never wrote anything down. And on one level, that is extremely frustrating, because obviously we want to know what they did, and we want to know, all those things that we can see, the writing of the ancient Egyptians and the Greeks, would have been, in a way, a beautiful gift. But on the other hand, I square that up with myself, in as much as they felt maybe they didn't need to write anything down, because all the wisdom that needed to be written down is in the book of nature itself. And that's the book that they learnt from. I don't know if that's true. Yeah. It's true for me. I'm taking that as a truth. Do you know what I mean? And so when you look at the oak can be such a great teacher because of the way it is. And when you look at the various trees, animals, plants, the seasons, the turning of the sun and moon, there is such a huge amount of learning to be had for that connection with nature. And I think, to me, that's what Druidry does. There is a book, and it's everywhere. And I've often said, if Richard Dawkins said, "Prove to me your God exists," I would just say, well, look around you. There is the great big whatever it is. I won't pretend to entirely understand it, but I feel it, and I feel that connection with it.
Totally and utterly agree, 100%. That is me as well. The book is everything. Nature is my life, my teacher, and I'm part of it. That's the thing. I think Druidry, I am not separate or divorced from any of this. I am integral and associated with and part of the beauty and mystery of it all.
A part of it.
Yeah. Teach me how to listen is another song, Dave. In answer to the question, teach me how to listen. Teach me how to be. Teach me how to walk upon the earth. Oh, my heart is here. Oh, my heart is here. Oh, my heart is here to heal. Anyway, there's hundreds of songs and hundreds of poems and hundreds, literally. You talk about Druidry being an oral tradition. Over the years, I've learned there's loads in me. I have a book, I have various books that I can refer to where I've noted things down. I call them Book of Shinings, my Druid Book of Shinings. Wicca has a Book of Shadows. So the Book of Shadows sits with the Book of Shinings for me. Lovely. And they both have their place.
Yeah, yeah. You said earlier that you find the bard is like a foundation. I find that too. One of the things that I always try and say is that there's a perception of a graded system, a grade of bard, ovate, and druid, that somehow you move from one to the other, and it's a progression. But actually, when you look at the Gwers and when you do them, you can tell that you don't move from one to the other. They build on each other, and actually, that the bard is the foundation of everything that comes afterwards. So the ovate is built on the foundation of the bard, and the druid is built on the foundation of the ovate and the bard.
Absolutely.
And, yeah. And there's
so here's interesting.
Sorry,
go on. No, after you.
No. Okay, my friends everywhere in the world, this is a total English moment. No, after you, please. What were you going to say, JJ?
What I was going to say is this is really interesting to me, because recently I was listening to the indigenous wisdom of South Africans, the ancient indigenous wisdom, and it's so in accord with Druidry. It's phenomenal. But there are 5 keys to creation, keys to the kingdom in a way, and keys to the magician. They list them as this: number 1, song; number 2, dance; number 3, prayer, or at least a connection with something greater than oneself; number 4, sacred ritual; and number 5, story. Now, that's from a completely different thread, but how true is that? That completely and utterly encapsulates the bardic for me. So, and there we have it.
Absolutely. And I think another thing that people, when they look at that and say, okay, so the bard is the foundation. Well, I'm not a poet. I'm not a storyteller. I'm not a songwriter. Of course, the journey of the bard is to step into the flow of Awen, step into the flow of sacred divine breath or inspiration. And of course, it's elusive. It's not always there. It's something that has to be opened up to and allowed to flow through you. And I think that creativity obviously can be expressed through song, through dance, through poetry, through storytelling, through story writing. But it can also be expressed by how you cook your food. It can be expressed by how you raise your children or how you interact with your friends or the world around you. There's a creative spark of authenticity that comes from that relationship with the Awen and with it, whatever it is that you're creating. And I always feel that moment when for me, it's songwriting, obviously. For me, it's songwriting when I am opening up and I feel in the flow of Awen. That is the closest I get to feeling at one with the great big whatever it is. That's the bardic tradition to me in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, and I equate with that. I don't write. I write some songs, but I love singing song. I love poetry as well, writing poetry. So that's an expression of some of my Druidry.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, in the moment, this relates to the question as well. Here's several poems come to mind, but I wrote this when I was looking for the way. I wrote, I am not a Christian, yet Christ is all around. I'm not a Buddhist, yet Buddha is my ground. I'm not a Muslim, yet Allah's here in all I see. I'm not a Hindu, yet Krishna speaks to me. I'm not an atheist, but nothingness counts too. I walk the path of Yahweh, although I'm not a Jew. None of these and all of these and more. If one excludes the others, love's truth goes out the door. Come build a mighty rainbow, embracing all beliefs and creeds. Form something even greater than our wildest dreams exceed. Dream this mighty rainbow encircling the earth. Sacrifice our dogma, celebrate rebirth. And that was the poem, but I added 2 lines years later, because I said, I'm not a Druid, but but the oak is all I am. I'm not a Wiccan, but I love where'er I can. I mean, the point of being a Druid for me encapsulates and honours all other parts and all the whole. So it's moving beyond that in a way. Anyway, yeah.
That is beautiful. Seriously, that is such a beautiful. And I when I first found Obod, I confess I found some of the openness frustrating because I wanted to be told what to do and what to believe. I think that's what leads people to the books. It's like, oh yeah, to be this, you need to do this. And then I got the Gwers, and of course that's not what it does at all. It's all about that kind of thing on the Temple of Delphi, know thyself. It's about knowing who you are and how you personally create and connect with whatever it is that you believe. And as I've gone through the years, I've realized the absolute power, potential and blessing of that kind of universalist approach of openness and acceptance of other paths, that you don't have to be a pagan to be part of Obod. I am, but that doesn't mean to say that I can't stand in circle with Christians and Buddhists and all the other people who are in that circle with me. I think that's such a gift that when I first joined, I didn't see it, but now I see it very, very clearly now,
Yeah, and it reflects, like the word educare, everything's been turned on its head in our time. Educare means to bring out that which is within, to bring out. So true education's about bringing out what's that which is within. We impose that which is without, as in outside and without meaning half the time. Yeah. So and that's what Druidry does. It's bringing out the truth of who I am, and it's unique. We're all unique. Yeah,
and that's definitely a thing with modern Druidry now. Of how we, since the kind of 1700s, have recreated it. I think with a little push from nature herself, saying, "I need people like you So here it is. Here's here's the connection you need. And if somebody says to me, sum up Druidry to me, what it would be a set of skills and feelings and techniques that allow you to develop a deeper relationship with the natural worlds, seen and unseen, because I do think it also includes the other world as well as the tangible stuff you can see and touch. It's also the stuff that hides, that's in exactly the same place, but just slightly to one side,
Yeah, totally. Absolutely agree with you, Dave. I mean, this relationship with nature, I mean, I lead a singing group over the years, singing and celebrancy and sovereign earth. But what it's become songlines of Albion or songlines of Avalon. We're in singing to the earth, in offering it. I mean, this sounds fanciful at one point, in one way. And if I'd said this years ago, I might have laughed at it, but I feel it to be true. Yeah. Offering the song to the earth with the right intention is reinvigorating, re-honoring the song lines which are latent and present. And in doing that, we heal not just the earth, but we heal ourselves. It's reciprocal. There's some energy flow takes place beyond words that is a medicine, is healing, and the earth is crying for it just as much as we are.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. So wherever I've traveled and you've been there, you always have your drum with you. Doesn't matter if it's over in the Netherlands, Germany, Glastonbury, wherever it is, you seem to never, ever travel without your drum. So can you tell me about your relationship with the drum? How, because it seems to always be this one as well. How your relationship with the drum how did that develop, and what is the drum to you?
Well, let me play it first to partly answer that, and then I'll speak in English.
Okay.
Can you hear it?
Yeah.
I am the land, that is all that I am. I am the land, that is all that I am. I am the land that is all around me. I am the land that is all that I am. Now, I could go on for half an hour just with that one, but I'll spare you. But there's something about you go deeper over time, but you get a flavour of it. Okay, this drum, my gosh, I don't know how long I've had it now, but probably getting on for 20 years, I imagine, something of that order. It was gifted to me by a fellow Obody, as it happens, although I didn't realise that at the time. Chris, Sky Ravenwolf, she lived on a boat. She's dead now. She's passed on, but a beautiful soul, crafted loads of people. I suspect quite a few people on here may know of her or have items made by her. She's really gifted. She said she wanted to make a drum for me, and she asked for a few ideas at the time, and I gave her the ideas of, I was living in the yurt, so and that's and I said the white horse and oak trees, and I said a few ideas, and then she went away and she produced this amazing drum. I mean, it's half the size of me, and I mean it's not insubstantial. Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. I think she presented it to me at one of the assemblies down in Glastonbury, summer assemblies, and I was disappointed. I was disappointed because it didn't reflect what I thought I was at that time. It's full of ravens, moons, the intricacies, the spirals of the white horse, the phases of the moon, the elements are represented here, but particularly the ravens. Comes back to the ravens. What I've learned is how much she saw into me. She saw me. Raven is so integral to my path now.
And you didn't know it at the time?
I didn't know it, but the drum helped me see it. And this drum is almost part of me. You'll understand as a musician. I think, like people used to marry their harps, didn't they?
Yes.
In the old days. I'm not quite in that place with it, but I have a deep, respectful, and loving connection with this drum, and it serves me. It serves as an expression of my soul. But in doing that, it serves something wider. It serves as an expression of life force and life soul. And it does go. I'd be lost without it. I mean, non-attachment, and I could live without it, I'm sure. But I wouldn't. I'd be pretty upset if I wasn't. I'd need a drum. It expresses something of me.
When you play it, do you feel it moves into some kind of rhythmic heartbeat of the earth beneath you and that kind of stuff?
You've said it. Yeah, you've said it. I mean, it absolutely does. There is a heartbeat to the earth. It's much slower than ours. I mean, it helps take us on a journey. When I'm in community, it immediately takes us deeper. It is resonant. There's a resonance and a quality that kind of vibrates with the bone, and also transmits through the waters of our being. We're so much water, and it yes, yeah. Deep into the earth I go. Deep into the earth I know. Deep into the earth I go. Deep into the earth I know. Hold my hand, sister. Hold my hand, whoa. Hold my hand, brother. Hold my hand. Hold my hand. That's also what Druidry does. And song. Yeah, we walk this land, heart to heart, hand in hand. We sing our song to the earth we belong. Yeah, I could go off on one, but you get the idea. Song is really such a beautiful medium of expression, transmission, and medicine and harmony. Yeah. Even when did you discover that connection with song and chant? Was it during the bardic course, or was it later on in your journey? Well, here's interesting. As a young boy, I had a really beautiful voice, so I was told. So much so that I was chosen to sing solos in this choir that ended up going to the Vatican to sing for the Pope, but I wasn't part of it, and I'll tell you why. Because as part of the rehearsal, we sang to in the cathedral in Birmingham. Well, it wasn't the cathedral. Where was it? The Oratory in Birmingham, Edgbaston. And I was put up front to sing one of the verses solo, and I completely froze. I was scared stiff and couldn't sing. Yeah. And that set me back for quite a while. I lost my voice, but it was always deep within me. And I mean, the story of, I've always loved song, and song's been a big part. But what happened? I lived in a yurt for several years, as I know you know, but most people here won't necessarily know. And a yurt. I went into it. Some people might not know what a yurt is. What is a yurt, JJ? Hey, a yurt is like a fancy tent. It comes from the Siberia or Mongolia. It's a beautiful structure. It's a circular, round canvas and pole dwelling, which I really love. It's the circularity of it. There's something beautiful about it. It's brilliant against wind and cold. It's not so good in our climate against the damp and the wet. Although I survived I was 4.5 years in the yurt. Wow. Great time, really powerful time to reconnect with the earth. I really learned who I was, and that was a deep, dark time. I went there in a place of sorrow, and came out, as I see it, in a place of, if not so much joy, I came out in a place of song. Right. I came out in a place of song, because in that time, again, another body, someone used to host some chanting in the town. We used to go there once a week, and then that migrated into the yurt. and we sang in my yurt.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I was obliged to leave and come to where I am now, Stroud, because my daughter was very ill and I was visiting her in hospital 2 or 3 times a week. And I came up here, and Becky, who led these chants, she said, "I'll give you a gift. For the first year, I'll come once a month and sing some chants." And they were mostly Eastern chants, Kirtan Bhakti, that sort of thing. But within them were some, what I would call Western indigenous. This is what I love is what I feel it's an indigenous form of native song and native wisdom in our language, devotional Druidry, I'd call it. And she did that, and after the year, so once a month she came up, and at the end of the year she said, "Okay, it's over to you." And I kind of thought, and I started a singing group, which has blossomed and led to all sorts of beautiful things. But
Right.
Yes, it's there we go.
And did that lead to your Enchanting the Void workshops? Is that how that developed from there?
Yeah, so there's different strands have spun off from that. Starting with Enchanting the Void, filling the gap that sort of, and enchanting through singing, reimagining, remagicalizing. Come dream the world anew, for the time it is upon us. As the land cries out, let consciousness now stir. Redream the sacred sites, so long silent, so long dormant, for the time is ripe. Moonlight dance is in the air. Reimagine rivers flowing, re-envision forests merging, as the drums now beat, reincarnate Goddess Earth. So that was a poem of mine that came in the moment.
Mm.
So the song, Enchanting the Void, so it started with this desire and wish to contemplative Druid, devotional Druidry, but also joyous, a whole range of songs. But it's taken off in different ways. I do live sessions in Stroud in the Roundhouse. They've been in yurts or whatever over the years. And that's become songlines of Avalon or songlines of Albion as well, earth songs. I do an online one, which has become something called Earth Service, where we connect all around. It's become the global grove. I mean, it sounds fanciful, but that's what it feels like. Everyone connects in the global grove. And we sing, but it's also an act of service. It's called Earth Service, and it's in devotion to the earth. You see, much of what happens in, not just in Druidry, in our lives, much of it's head-based, but the beauty with song, it's embodied, it's experiential. And I think the key to Druidry is the experiential bit. I can read whatever in a book, but come the crunch, if I don't live it or experience it, now I get it. It's in my body, it's in my bones. Yes. The body keeps the score, So song somehow is an enabler to that, and goes into the you could call it somatic, you could call it embodied. It's something resonant beyond the head. That includes the head, because that vibrates too, but it's more heart-based.
Yeah,
more heart-based.
What I've noticed when I was at one of your one of your Enchanting the Void workshops, and I think it went on for an hour and a half. I think it was planned to go on for over in I think it was in the Netherlands. I think it was, if I remember rightly. And what I'd noticed is we all came into this room together. We sat in a circle. You led it, and we started to sing to your drum and to your voice these chants that were very easy to slip into. But at first, there was a certain level of self-consciousness in the room. Even there was this kind of like, oh, I'm singing with people, and occasionally they would have their eyes shut and they'll open it up and look around to see if anyone was looking at them or noticing them. And I think one person might have left, but on the whole, everybody stayed. And after a while, there was a moment where it just stopped, and I felt totally at one with everyone in that circle. Our voices singing together, the drum being the kind of the glue that held it all together, and our voices joining, and it was absolutely beautiful and blissful.
It's true, and that is something that I find happens. It's like a magic ride, a magic carpet ride. So it doesn't always You can't ever know where it's going, but magic and mystery comes in, and this deep healing, and something else takes over, which is the muse. The muse kicks in. Funnily enough, I'm off to Holland in June they've asked, they want some more of this. One wonderful thing, I sang a song out there many years ago, a tree song as it was, and then everyone was their families, and then I went back a couple of years later, and the kids had adopted it as their kind of their mascot or their theme tune, and they sang it back to me.
Wonderful.
As if it was theirs, and it was great. It was theirs. It had become theirs, and just wonderful. And here's the other one. It's true that, this self-conscious thing, I think we all have a voice, but and we all have song within us. And the thing with the sessions are for people can come and just be bathed in song. They don't have to sing. There's no expectation. But I remember clearly, and this is I remember this really clearly. One woman came once and she said, I can't sing at all. I've got, I really want to listen, but I can't sing. Really the worst voice you'll have ever heard. And fair enough, just took her at her word. Halfway, well, no, probably it was more than halfway through, probably 2/3 of the way through. This angelic voice bursts out. I'm not kidding. And everyone kind of astounded, literally like having an angel in your midst. The voice was, because it had this resonance and harmonic, and it was her. And she was absolutely dumbfounded with herself. She said, I never knew that. And she had the most incredible voice, sort of transformative. Anyway, that's an extreme, but I think it tells the story.
It does. and singing is such a beautiful expression, and group singing is very bonding, and it's just a lovely thing.
Community. Yeah.
Well, we've been talking for 40 minutes, and it's been fantastic. But I need to know: do you have a? It might be hard to have a favourite chant because you've probably got hundreds literally sitting in your brain. But one to connect with the earth. If you were to go off to the woods with your drum and just sit by an oak on your own and just try to connect with the land beneath you and around you. If you're in Australia, it might be a gum tree, but wherever it is in the land, is there one that comes to mind to connect for that?
There's loads that come to mind, but there's one coming through.
Okay.
I mean, there are literally half a dozen.
I'm sure there are.
But this is the one for the moment.
Okay.
Humble yourself in the arms of the wild. You've got to lay down low and humble yourself in the arms of the wild. You've got to ask her what she knows, and we will lift each other up. Higher and higher, we will lift each other up. Humble yourself in the arms of the wild. You've got to lay down low and humble yourself in the arms of the wild. You've got to ask her what she knows, and we will lift each other up. Higher and higher, we will lift each other up. Higher and higher, we will lift each other up.
Thank you.
And that's great because in the moment, again, it takes us down, connecting with the earth, lying on the earth, going low, lifts us up.
Yeah.
The paradox.
Yeah.
Here's another one. This is a beautiful Druidic one for me. Be bold enough to be small enough to let the world be awesome, and it will. Be bold enough, be small enough to let the world be awesome, and it will. And there's something in there as well about Druidry has enabled me to step out of my shyness and my fear and, kind of sod it. Here I am, warts and all. Be bold enough to be small, but with that, it's also stripped to some extent. It strips the ego, I think. Druidry in a healthy way. I think we need ego to be in the world. Can I just share? I know time's going up. This is an ancient poem, but it speaks so much wisdom, and it speaks to this in the moment. This was written in the 13th century by someone called Mahmud Shabistari in the Secret Rose Garden, and I just love it. It goes, the stakes are high for real prayer. You must gamble yourself and be willing to lose. When you've done this, and the self shakes off what you believed yourself to be, then no prayer remains, only a sparkle in the eye. Knower and known are one. If you penetrate the center of time and space, you can bypass the addictions of the world. You can become the world yourself. Now, that was written 700 years ago, but that reflects, for me, it's wisdom embodied in it, but it's also the Druid path. It's also, it's the life path of all of us. You don't need to give it a name in a way.
Yeah.
Stakes are high for real prayer. You must gamble yourself and be willing to lose. Druidry, the Obod cause has enabled me to do that, or at least in part. And it took me into those places.
Yeah.
You get it.
I do get it. And with that moment, I think that's a good point to stop the interview. Thank you so much, JJ, for spending the time and talking with me. It's been a great, beautiful connection. You're a lovely man, and I love you loads, my friend. And I will see you along the road. All right?
I love you too, my brother, and lovely to see you. Fantastic. Yeah. Love and blessings all. Bye-bye.
Mycelium, the networks of our minds, a mycelium, the networks of our minds, and the laws of the land ring true and still. Some might save, yes, some might kill. Laws of the land ring true and hard. Oh well, I took steps, 8 steps, then I ate a bluet. Which way to the toilet? I really need to use it. Puff balls, climb walls, then I got it wrong, so I got myself a new book, Education Fungi. Mycelium, the networks of our minds. Mycelium, the networks of our minds, and the laws of the land ring true and still. Some might save, yes, some might kill. The laws of the land ring true in heart. Oh well, I found the horn of plenty, orange oak balletti. Think about the death cat, don't you dare forget me. View the velvet shack, trumpet chanterelle, special hidden places, shaggy parasol. Ate a sicky pink gill, man I'm feeling sick still. Flicking through my book, chicken of the woods. Watching for the dapplings, why does this keep on happening? Boots are full of cow crap, searching for the L caps. Mycelium, the networks of our minds. Mycelium, the networks of our minds, and the laws of the land ring true and still. Some might save, yes, some might kill. And the laws of the land ring true in heart. Pharmaceuticals, they're doing nothing for you. Doctors keep prescribing, governments are lying. answers in the ground, man, just beneath your feet. Talk to Mother Nature if you don't believe me.
He really is such a gentle man with the perfect surname of Middleway. After the interview, you heard Mycelium by Bear Witch Project from their new EP Volume 1. Now, methinks someone has been reading Merlin Sheldrake's inspiring book Entangled Life, and if you haven't, seek it out. It is incredible. Well, this music means we are approaching the end of the show, but before I go, let's have the results of last month's competition. The prize was a copy of Professor Alex Roberts' book Ancestors, a prehistory of Britain in 7 burials. And the question I asked was, the clan Tartans originate in which country in the British Isles? Well, the answer is of course Scotland, and the first name drawn from the hat and winner of that brilliant book is Lloyd Hales from New Zealand. Congratulations, Lloyd, that book will be on its way to you very soon. The prize this month is a beautiful framed piece of art donated by Witch Eclectic Esoterica called Hair Spring Bells. Now this is from their website about the piece. Silver gelatin print on glass, mounted on an early 20th century ornate aluminium frame. Made by coating the surface of the glass with silver gelatin and then projecting onto it the image from a 35mm black and white negative of bluebells at dusk near Firestone Copse on the Isle of Wight. The glass is then developed in the darkroom and fixed with a chemical called black magic. The image side of the glass is exposed, so must be treated carefully as you would treat the surface of a photograph. Because of the thickness of the glass, there is a gap between the image and the painted yellow wooden mount board, so there is shadow play behind the bluebells. It really is quite a remarkable piece of artwork, and it's still on their website. If you go to witch.co.uk, and that is spelt WYTCH, click on the shop tab and then find Spring Harebells, and that is it. A wonderful prize. And thank you so much for sending that into the show. The question I'd like you to answer is, in the interview, JJ played an instrument that he said felt like the heartbeat of the earth. What was the instrument? In the interview, JJ played an instrument that he said felt like the heartbeat of the earth. What was the instrument? Go on, that's an easy one, a real easy one. Email your answer along with your full postal address to podcast@druidry.org, and one of you will win that incredible piece of art. Well, my friends, that is a show. I will be back next month for DruidCast episode 192. But until then, have a fabulous Beltane, and for all of you in the Southern Hemisphere, a blessed Samhain. Peace and blessed be. Goodbye.